Ladies and gentlemen, we are straight away cutting to Parliament, where we are getting pictures of the Prime Minister, who is already in Parliament. So those shots now coming into us. In less than 20 minutes from now, his Finance Minister is the one who will be presenting the first budget of Modi 3.0. Is this a man who is looking under pressure to you? Is this a budget that will factor in the changed political realities of India? We'll know in the next couple of hours, that is, but that's the Prime Minister who's walking in. One of the traditions that he has started is that the Finance Minister presents the budget in English, and then the Prime Minister will have a recorded piece that plays out, essentially explaining the budget to the Aam Aadmi, telling the Aam Aadmi what the budget has in it for you. A pre-budget cabinet meeting, ladies and gentlemen, is currently underway. And as we see the Prime Minister walk inside Parliament and to that cabinet meeting, there are also some pieces of information that are coming to us on what this budget could hold. Now, it will hold a lot of things because there are various sectors that need to be catered to. There are various segments that need to be catered to. Then there is the financing, the huge task of financing all the schemes that have been announced by the government of India. So all that will, of course, be there. But the inside scoop coming in is that this budget could follow up on the success of PLI, which is performance-linked incentive. We could have something called the ELI, which is the employment-linked incentive. Essentially, the idea is to tell corporates that you generate more employment and we will give you incentives based on that. That's a pretty good idea, given the fact that jobs are a challenge for the Indian government right now. It's got a lot of hammering for it in the election as well. The job data, frankly, ladies and gentlemen, is complex, it's confusing. For example, just consider this fact that even if I work for 1 hour in 7 days, I'll be considered employed for this week as far as all surveys are concerned, as far as all data is concerned. If I work just 30 days in a month, I will again be considered employed for the entire year. Imagine, I just work 30 days a month and I will be considered employed for the entire year. So job data is complex. We are often told that wages have increased 10%. We are often told that the government has tried to generate jobs. There are jobs that are available. Don't fall for the false narrative. But yesterday itself, the Chief Economic Advisor of India has told the country that India till 2030 needs to generate 78.5 lakh jobs every year. And they are saying that these jobs will come mostly from the private sector and the state government. So a lot of hope from the private sector. So will we see a lot of incentives for the private sector? That is something that we'll wait and watch, but that seems to be likely. Mr. Banik, we are just getting for our viewers what could be included in the budget. Jobs, for example. Now, as far as jobs are concerned, is banking on the private sector alone the big problem, or does the government not have a choice here? The jobs that need to be generated in this country have to be generated from industry. Where will the government generate so much jobs from?
You see all the capital expenditure spending over the last few years. The government was successful in terms of creating jobs which are not that skill type jobs, So when you're, for instance, building a road or port or infrastructure, you don't require that high skill type of job. So the government, this is what we call the Keynesian philosophy. The government is doing its part in terms of creating jobs. But unfortunately, for the case of India, we have a huge population. In fact, I was reading through some numbers. In the context of the US economy, what Biden administration has done, they have also given a big push to the infrastructure, which has actually made the employment numbers look good in the US context. We are also doing the same, but unfortunately, the size of the US population is one-fifth than that of India. So the implication of the capital expenditures push, which is going to create this job thing, is not being felt to the extent what we are seeing in other countries. Now, coming to this other point which you have raised, which is very important, that, okay, jobs are getting created, but are these quality jobs, in the sense that there is a perception that maybe Indian economy is able to absorb these workers But most part of these workers are actually working the gig space. This Zomato as a Zomato delivery boy, or for that matter, as a paramedic person, or for that matter, as a helper in some hotel, restaurant, things like that. Because all of this will be counted as part of the jobs getting created. So jobs are getting created, but maybe the quality of this job creation is something the government need to think about. And therefore, something you just broke in the news, that giving incentive to the private corporate sectors, that if they were to employ more number of people, they will get some tax incentive, is a very, very welcome move, because if I look into the capacity utilization of the private corporate sectors, it has not changed much since
Okay.
2016-17. They are using 70 to 80% of their capacity utilization. And on top of that, you have this all-pervasive inclusion of technology and artificial intelligence, which are actually eating away jobs in the space, which are more in the capital-intensive mode of production. Therefore, I think the need of the hour is whether we can extend the PLI scheme to the sectors which is more into labor-intensive mode of production. Mind you, all the PLI scheme so forth has been in the capital-intensive mode of production. For instance, we are talking about pharmaceutical, we are talking about automobile, we are talking about manufacturing, capital-intensive manufacturing, we are talking about, let's say, electronics. So these are into capital-intensive mode of production. I think the government, or in this budget, it will be a great thing to see that the PLI scheme is extended to sectors such as textile, sector such as leather, sector such as footwear, or for that matter, agro-processing units, which actually employ more number of laborers. Mind you, the government has also done its part in terms of giving loan, in terms of mudra loan, to the small and medium enterprises.
Okay.
I think to the tune of 2 million US dollar is being spent on that. So extending the scheme from the capital intensive mode of production to the manufacturing sector, which employ more labor, I think is going to create more jobs.
Okay. Okay, do stay on with us, because this is the piece of breaking news that is on our screens. It's all beginning now. The cabinet has approved the union budget for 2024. Nirmala Sitharaman already making her way to the Lok Sabha. So proceedings in the Lok Sabha should be starting any time now. The exact time is 11 o'clock, so we are 13 minutes away from the budget being presented. Now, before that happens, and before, I thank my guests, very quickly, Mr. Ravi, and from you, Mr. Banik, as well, I want to ask you realistically what your expectations are from the budget. Mr. Ravi, if we could start with you and specifically focus on taxes.
So I would see a big boost for the middle class. I would see that the exemption limit for the income tax will be raised. The slabs, which is over 15% or 30% of tax over 15 lakhs, I see a change there. I also see that the standard deduction will be increased. So these are the few things that I see. Then I also very clearly see the new pension scheme to be modified so as to, based on various feedbacks that the government has got. This is the fourth thing that I see. I also see very clear incentive for the seniors, super senior citizens in terms of medical, etc. Because this is a very imperative thing considering the cost of medicine and cost of medical facilities. So this is what I see as from my side. These are the 4-5 changes. I also see something on the HRA side. I feel personally that this will also, there will be a little soft there. So I also see, I do not know whether it will happen, but rationalization of the long-term capital gain and short-term capital gain across all class of assets. These are the 4-5 things that I see in the budget. And also, I would see a lot of push on the insurance sector. So these are my few takes.
You'll see a lot of push on the insurance sector as well. Okay. Nilanjan Banik, would you want to weigh in here? businesses don't like surprises. They like consistency. But are you expecting any big ticket announcements as far as this budget is concerned? Because this is a post-election budget. They have to be pragmatic and hard. In a pre-budget, in an interim budget or a pre-election budget, you can be soft and sweet and nice to everyone. Not in a post-election budget, especially when political realities have changed.
I don't think there is going to be much change in the tax structure. What is going to happen is government is going to stick around with this fiscal prudence because the government is very careful that they don't let the fiscal prudence go out of hand because that is going to increase the inflation, something which is not liked by the common man. Having said that, there are some expectation, which I think, given the political scenario we are right now in, you will see more number of announcements going for this agricultural sector, for the youth, and as well for the women, because India is actually at this point of time is doing pretty bad in terms of women labor force participation. So I would not be surprised if the government is declaring many more scheme for the women.
But Mr. Bani, can I just interrupt you there? Because the chief economic advisor yesterday told us that the number of women in India's labor force has actually surged to 37% actually.
No, but that again depends upon which state we are talking about. In the southern states, which are more progressive states, you find the women labor force participation rate is increasing by leap and bounds, But if you are looking in some of the Bimaru state, in particular Bihar, you will find their women labor force participation is actually even worse than that what we see for Afghanistan, So something serious is happening in some states. And for that, you need the direct government intervention because thankfully, what we see now is the Nitish Kumar government is adding to the central government. And therefore, we'll see much more micromanaging and some more intervention happening, be it creating more fund for the women to build their home, like PM Awas Yojana. Most part of it are actually in tune to the fact that if the woman is the head of the household or if they have some say in the family, they are getting loan. Or for that matter, in terms of healthcare, this has to be targeted more towards the woman. So basically, what we are trying to see is the government is trying to build a narrative of how to bring more number of people out of what we say is the multidimensional poverty.
Okay.
Be it in terms of targeting better access to healthcare, education, housing, and of course, the women labor force generation in the Narega, or for that matter, doling out more like the Janani Shuraksa scheme, which more has to do with benefiting the woman more than what we see in terms of benefiting their male counterpart.
Okay. Do stay on with us. I believe